All right, we're here. We're live. Another episode, Coral Living. It's me, James, here with my brother Justin. Another week come and gone. You have a good week?
It was good enough, sure. How about you yourself?
It was all right. I've had to work in the rain a lot this weekend, but you know, it's not the end of the world. It wasn't too bad. We got through it. Before we get started, I just wanted to actually send a shout out to the Jim and Terry show. They've mentioned us on their YouTube channel, so I wanted to mention them on ours and just say, hey, if you want to go check out the Jim and Terry show, listen to two boomers drinking coffee, talking about
everything.
Yeah, they talk about a lot. They like to talk about American
always
politics.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah,
Politics,
aliens, Elon Musk,
philosophy.
and SpaceX. Good stuff. So you can go check them out. They're good. But tonight, our subject that we're going to talk about is open-mindedness. Are you open-minded? Do you consider yourself to be an open-minded person? Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, if you had asked me if I was open-minded, I would have said, oh yeah, sure, I'm open-minded. And then as I started to study it and get into it, I realized how unopened my mind was. What about you? Your experience? What do you think? Do you feel like you've grown in open-mindedness, or?
Well, I think as anybody gets older, everybody grows in open-mindedness kind of by default. You have to, to survive. There's lots of things, there's lots of aspects to just living, L-I-V-I-N, that you've got to learn as you get older, and you have to, there's lots of things in life that you encounter that cause you to have to reassess your prejudgments about things and cause you to be a little more open-minded and flexible if you're going to be an effective person. I don't know.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, when they think of open-mindedness, they might have a wrong way of looking at it. They might think of it as like, accepting a bunch of beliefs, or they're so wishy-washy. They just believe everything that they hear. But in my studies of it, I would find that open-mindedness is probably letting go of a lot of your beliefs. Just because you're able to entertain a new thought or a new idea doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to believe it or take it on.
Here's a question. Why even talk about open-mindedness? Why consider it as anything important?
Because you might be locked into a certain frame of thinking that might be limiting your ability to progress in life or take on new experiences that might make your life better.
Or understand your circumstances, or grapple with reason, right? To be open-minded is to simply consider, in some ways, it's to consider what maybe you haven't considered if you're problem solving, for instance. You don't want to be locked into one frame or one perspective. You want to maybe grow a little bit in your ability to look outside the box.
Yeah, for sure, and it can definitely be challenging, because if you embrace a certain idea wholeheartedly and you hook onto that thing really hard,
mm-hmm.
You might be only able to see now through that thing that you've decided to believe or take on, which limits your perspective, your ability to see, outside of that box. And, do we not see that literally everywhere? Like constantly, if you follow any type of media,
mm-hmm.
It seems like there's paradigm lock almost absolutely everywhere.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Tunnel vision, myopic, looking through a myopic lens. You're not seeing the whole picture. Mm-hmm. Yep. I think that's a thing.
Yeah. So, as I asked you before, do you feel like you've become more open?
I think it's involuntary. I think your options.
Or is it your circumstances that make you?
Your circumstances in life kind of, for most people, I would imagine, kind of forces you to become more open-minded as you get older. Because, when you're little, what do you got? You're toddling around your mother, your father, your family, whatever, and then you go out into the world and you see that there's a wide variety of all kinds of people, all kinds of things, all kinds of circumstances that don't. Not everything lines up with your prior way of thinking. I think it's like that. I think that open-mindedness for most people is, to some level, essential. Now, you could take it to the nth degree, and you could take it to the extreme of open-mindedness. Are we getting into that territory? Are we talking about extreme open-mindedness, or are we talking about simply,
I feel it's like I feel like it's like a spectrum where you like, if it is something that you're growing, or like a skill or something that you build upon. Some people, they seem to have an easier time to embrace a new idea or a new thought, and it might have something to do with not being so threatened by an idea, because new ideas, new perspectives are threatening to you, especially if you have something that your whole life is built upon.
Mm-hmm.
A new thought or something new to consider that might threaten that belief system can might throw you off. It might disrail your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine.
So could you not make an argument then that maybe open-mindedness is like, I mean, it's interesting to talk about. You can wax philosophical about open-mindedness till the cows come home, but at the end of the day, there might be an argument made for not being open-minded. There might be, you know what I mean? Like, some people, I'm sure, like, there are certain things I'm not going to be open-minded to. You're not going to be. So why push it into the consciousness? Why hold this up and analyze it and think about it? What's the point?
I would say, well, back to what I was saying before, it might open it, there's possibility that it could hurt you, but again, it's not, I don't think it's taking on a new belief system. If anything, it's probably relinquishing or loosening your grip on an idea that you're holding that might be able to allow you to take new avenues in your life. Like, if you believe that money is evil, mm-hmm. then you probably will never have money.
Mm-hmm. But if money's evil, then why would you want it?
Exactly. So you would have to explore that. You're not going to know it unless you mm-hmm. are open-minded enough to take a look at it. And there's like, some people want the proof before they're going to even entertain the thought of something. Mm-hmm. Give me all the proof. Show me all the proof. But you can't. It can't work that way. You have to at least study it or learn something about it or take a look at it from a different vantage point than just automatically judging. Well, I don't have the proof in front of me, so I just can't.
Well, then that means that there's low risk open-mindedness and high risk open-mindedness. Mm. Okay, you could do a thought exercise. Here's one maybe beneficial way. There's like an old parable about the idea of.
We're getting into the parables.
I don't know if it's a parable or what you call it, but it's the idea is that, say somebody wrongs you and now you hate them. You're a victim somehow, and now you harbor hate and you want to execute revenge. You're just biding your time to get to somebody. Your inability to forgive, the way the saying goes, is like making poison to get your enemy, but then you drinking it. Like the hate that you harbor. So maybe you could be open-minded to the fact of actually letting go of your hatred. But no, like this is a survival mechanism, like if I just let things go, then I'm going to be a doormat, yada, 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 yada. But maybe you have to just for a moment be open to forgiving your perpetrator, and then you find that you've actually let go of like a heavy burden. You're not so wound up and tight. You're not carrying around that hate and those negative feelings and stress, like a biological, like a holding pattern in your body. You actually relinquish it.
Yeah.
So there's but you have to actually be open-minded enough to let go and forgive your enemy and consider why a circumstance like that occurs and all the reasons behind it, and
The depth, the depth of it, it's deep. It goes down many rabbit holes. In my studying of open-mindedness, I ran into like 3 mindsets. There's like the completely closed-minded, where nothing is going to break them. Mm-hmm. Nothing's going to break them. Then there's the arrested mindset, where it's that someone has a willingness, they could be changed, but the right elements in their life would have to allow them for that. Like, they wouldn't have to be, constrained by a survival means or something. Things would have to be going very good for them to kind of embrace that new idea. And then there's an open-minded, like on the high end of the spectrum, who would be the person who is, regardless of their circumstances, they have a natural inclination to be more willing to take on a new idea. I think most of us would probably fall into that arrested. A lot of things in our life, have to be flowing for us to be in a right mindset to be able to take on something.
It's a big yarn ball. It's a big yarn ball of ideals and ideas, and your psyche might be like a dense yarn ball that once you start picking it apart and unwinding it, it's like a big Christmas ball that's going to take forever, and for every little piece that you unwind, there's more knots to navigate.
Yeah.
Stay with me for a sec here. So, say you're locked into you got paradigm lock, and you're stuck with one way of thinking, and you think, well, why would I change it? Well, are you happy? Well, no, I'm not happy. Well, then have you considered, maybe you've got a high stress job or something like that. Yeah, but I work all the time so I can pay for all this fancy stuff. Sea-Doos don't just buy themselves. I gotta buy it myself. Well, how much happiness is that bringing you? And who told you that? And have you investigated the fact that you might have some kind of lifestyle obsession that was put on you by society or culture? And then as you're pulling things away, I think the fear is that if you're too open-minded, if you get too crazy, you enter into nihilism, and then nothing matters.
Or just in crazy, you might just go crazy.
But crazy according to whose standards? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, according to whose standards, and then even if
they're probably looking at like whatever world they're living in. They don't want to be the crazy kook in the family.
But why? Yeah. Why don't you want to be the crazy kook? Maybe at the core of, maybe when you pull the whole thing apart, there's a secret part of you that actually wants to be the crazy kook. You're free. Woohoo! Like.
That's not baby.
But I'm just saying, this is, you can take open-mindedness at whatever. It's like anything in life. It depends on where you want to take it and why. And the repercussions of what you're doing.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would look at it for like, me, hyper pragmatic and practical. It was like, if you're fishing on one side of the boat and you're not catching fish, have you ever thought of just throwing the fish into the net into the other side of and maybe you'll catch one.
Yeah, and maybe you don't want to be a fisherman at all, and you want to leave it and go follow some dude who just wandered out of the desert.
Yeah.
Because he was the one that brought that stupid thing up in the first place. Yeah. Yes, there's just very basic ways of looking at things differently, and then there's ways that will cause an upheaval of your whole lifestyle if you follow it through.
Yeah, well, we talked about this when we got started, was that we really like assuredness and knowing. Like, there's this thing within us that is like, I just want to know I know, and I have
comfort seeking.
Yeah, like
all that is just comfort seeking. I just want to know that I'm safe and sound, like a little baby.
Yeah.
But
it's real. It's definitely real.
It's real, but I mean,
it doesn't mean that it don't exist. And maybe recognizing, and maybe that's why I'm bringing it up. Is like, you never know what roads you might be able to go down. Had you explored. If you just told yourself that you sucked at art your whole life and never even gave it a go, just because I did a crappy drawing when I was in public school, and now but you break open your mind, try something new.
I am crazy enough to think that there could be a trap out there. You know, say you're watching some guy and he's a motivational speaker and he's always got a big smile on his face and he's like, you know, look behind me, check out the awesome mansion I live in and these cars. And you watch him fervently and you can't understand why you've done all the courses and you followed all his rules and, you know, he smiles all the time and he looks happy all the time. Why aren't I? And then one chance weekend, you follow some grumpy looking hunter into the woods and he teaches you how to take down an elk. And all of a sudden you've got some kind of spiritual fulfillment from something completely outside of a very shallow perspective of life. That's my crazy soapbox kook rant. But am I illustrating something that's anywhere cohesive?
Sure. Judge right down in the comments.
Like, think about why you listen to who you listen to, or why you don't, or why you ignore, you know, you know, I don't see 2 chains around his neck, so why would I listen to him? You know, and he doesn't look super happy, he's not surrounded by models, why would I listen to him? Or, why would you listen to a guy just because he's in the forest wearing camel fur, you know?
Yeah.
He's crazy enough that he might actually be making sense. Decide for yourself.
Well, yeah, and being able to take, you know, like other perspectives, you know, it's so funny how we can, with like a confirmation bias definitely comes into this. Like we totally get ourselves stuck in this just listening to, like, you know, people rail, say, on like Fox News, those idiots, they're so unwoke, they're ridiculous, and CNN, you know, those crazy liberals that are like, they get so focused on one group. I remember in my mid 30s, you know, kind of coming into my own with my job, solidifying with my family and all that stuff, and you start to take, you know, you start to notice everything, you know, like the taxes that are coming off your paychecks and stuff like that. You start to see that stuff more because now you have skin in the game, and you know, you can become pretty bitter at certain things and be like, oh, damn government just taking all my money and blah, 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 blah. Not seeing that, you know, like taxes go to healthcare and
infrastructure, you
and
want a nice road to drive on.
But, you know, I've got my self-interest, you know, like, oh, they're you know, it's always like, they're giving it to, you know, the immigrants or something. There's always something, right? Mm-hmm. And then so you go on YouTube and then you start watching all these things, you know, about like,
they're giving it to the immigrants.
Yeah, yes.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Well, where are you gonna go? I don't know. I heard that this other country has a good government program for immigrants, so I'm hoping I can get in as an immigrant. You idiot! You're completely self-biased. You're completely.
But I can remember at that time in my life being like all caught up in it and being like, and thinking like, what, I was so like, how can a liberal be a liberal? Like, or a progressive, like, I was so caught up in that like whole like game of judging and total confirmation bias. You couldn't tell me any different, you know, conservative's the way to go. Not that I would think, not that I think, you know, liberalism is the way either. I'm just saying that I was very paradigm locked. I was stuck, and it wasn't till I was so confused why anyone could be liberal that all I did was just saturate myself with liberal stuff to get a feel for it, and then after I did it, I wasn't so judgmental of it anymore, mm-hmm. You know, and I wouldn't consider myself to be a liberal or a conservative, mm-hmm. But but it gave me better understanding to see the other side of the argument instead mm-hmm. of just constantly filling myself with one side of the argument, never being able to see the other side.
Stubbornly, you live by the sword and you die by the sword. You stick to one thing, and I mean, to me, a wise tactician in life builds a steel man argument for his enemy, not a straw man. You try to build up you try to build a good case for where an alternate way of thinking comes from, you know, and then that way you actually have a better chance at peace, unless you just.
Yeah, you had said it before we were talking. I like how you just put it there, but like. You literally have to get to a point where you are literally trying to prove yourself wrong, because truth will rise above all that. Mm-hmm. Will it not?
Somebody said it once that you can bull crap all kind. Like, the truth doesn't need a good the truth doesn't need to be defended. it's self-evident.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
which I don't know. I don't even know if I believe that. It was something along the lines of that. Scratch that from the whole thing. Edit that out. But it was something like that. Like the truth doesn't need to be so ferociously defended. You know, like it's pretty damn self-evident. Just look around.
Yeah.
You know, since the dawn of time, what can happen happens. What should happen is what's happening, and people think to themselves that they actually are like got some kind of God perspective, and they know how things should be beyond what's actually happening. You know, they want control, and control to me is comfort seeking. You only want that level of control and that complete frozen version of reality. You know, like you've frozen things in time. So, right, it's perfect. Keep it this way. Out of some weird comfort seeking place. You don't want the uncomfortable thing that comes with newer things, despite the fact that it might enrich you. It might actually make your life more rich and fulfilled to get a taste for even the things that seem alien.
Now we're talking.
Weird to you. Yeah, anyway, whatever. End of rant. End of rant.
I think you make a good point. Right now, I will transition into our next side of the night, and for our spiritual stuff that we're talking about, I took a look at some Greek mythology this week.
We're gonna have a little icon over here in this corner showing it.
No, actually, you can hear us, and look at this. We'll show you this thing.
Did you do it? Did you figure out how to put a little icon in the corner?
No, I just figured out that I can totally put that up there.
Yes, do it.
So there, we got Pandora's box. So Pandora is the first female to ever be created by the Greek gods. Now, this apparently happened during the golden age of like mankind, when mankind was just created, and woman hadn't been created yet, and mankind was pretty much indestructible at the time. There was no disease, death, or pestilence or anything, I think, at the time. And one of the titans, I think, or lower gods or whatever, gave mankind fire, and that angered Zeus. So he punished that titan or god for doing that thing. But later on down the road, one of the other gods, the god of fire, Hephaestus, which you can see right there, Hephaestus, he made Pandora and got some of the other gods to give her gifts, like beauty and stuff. And then Zeus, he had a plan to kind of like get back at mankind, because he didn't like the fact that mankind was given fire, because it gave them kind of an unfair advantage to evolve, I think, or something like that in the beginning, because they were like indestructible or something.
Eloquently put.
And so what Zeus did, after the gifts were given to Pandora, he gave her the gift of curiosity and a box, which he said shall never be opened, because the secrets contained within the box are only for the gods. Now, I'm sure you're probably already seeing a little bit of parallels here with the Adam and Eve story. But anyway, Pandora went about mankind. She was like the most beautiful woman in the world, and the only woman, I think, at the time. And one of the titans fell in love with her, and she was very curious because of her gift and all the stuff, and she was tormented by the box that would whisper things to her. And so she eventually caved, cracked, went to the box, opened up the box, and all the negative things in the world kind of came out: disease, pestilence, death, horrible creatures, and stuff like that. She was distraught. She shut the box fast, and then after, she could hear another slight murmuring coming from the box or something like that.
Good God, we gotta get to the point on this thing.
Oh, stop. She went out, she opened the box, and then the spirit of hope came out and gave hope to mankind. But anyway,
so that's the point of that.
The curiosity, factor got the better of her, and she she opened it up.
In a nutshell, what was that whole thing about? I mean, the graphics
it's
were
an interesting story. Well, look, again, it looks like females get blamed for the destruction of mankind in this story, just like in the Adam and Eve story. So, and what is, the curiosity of mankind, what will it, I know there's some type of a story there, and like what will that do with mankind? Where will that take us? And we were talking about open-mindedness and our curiosity, adventure out and look at new things. I thought there was just kind of a little bit of a tie-in story there in the searching new things and all that jazz. I don't know. Maybe there's a lesson to be learned from. That story.
I think the main thing is that we got a graphic going and weren't just holding up a piece of paper. That's a huge feat. So.
That's a big step in the
You're welcome.
Big step in the right direction. But anyway,
I thought Pandora's Box was bad, but it seemed there was a good part.
There was hope left in the end, and that was what kind of helped mankind survive that time when all the disease and pestilence was that they always had hope, and it was a drive to move forward through all the terrible things, because up until that time, mankind was invincible. So
with no women.
Yeah.
Gay. This is Greek. This is a Greek thing.
This is a Greek mythology, yeah. And apparently
doesn't help the stereotypes.
There's a whole bunch of different versions of that story. That seemed to be like the steadiest line there that I could take. In some stories, it's not a box; it's a jar. So whatever. But yeah. So
there you go. Everybody should be enlightened now.
Yeah,
you're welcome.
That's good stuff. But yeah. So anyway, I want to say thanks for watching us. You can click the like button. You can share. You can subscribe. All that helps just promote the channel, moving it forward. Which we
comment, for God's sake, comment.
Yeah.
Tell us to eat spiders and kick each other in the nuts, whatever.
Tell us what you want to hear. We'd love to hear. We'd love to talk about anything you guys want to talk about. And we will see you guys in the next one. And
stay spiritual.